Pando, and Pando is having his third post-track ride this morning. Actually, it's really his second ride, which I sat on him for a couple of minutes yesterday, but it was a very abridged ride because I was trying to squeeze it in before my dentist came, and I was not very successful. So I only got to sit on him for 5 or 10 minutes yesterday, and mostly walk and do a couple steps of trot, which was fine. I mean, he was wonderful. It was just super short, and yeah, it just was what it was. Sometimes that happens. Anyway, so today is really like his second real ride, and I introduced him to poles in this ride, which of course is quick. I think it's quick, but I have people wanting to see that, and of course, I'm only going to do it if I think that the horse is in a good place and it's going to be a confidence building ride. If I started walking over these things or trying to walk over them, and this was causing anxiety and for him to become flustered, and if it wasn't going well, we just wouldn't do it. But clearly he has no problem. He just casually sauntered around the ring over all the cavalettis and poles that I had set up, so I had a pretty good feeling that it would go really well from the trot, and it did, of course, because this horse is absolutely delightful. He's exceptionally talented, and he has a fabulous brain. Plus, he's a 6-year old and he ran 32 times. So he's just not, he's not a baby. He's green as a sport horse, but he's certainly not green to being a riding horse and being a professional and being put in new situations and experiencing new things and all that kind of stuff. He's a professional at all those things. And that definitely showed today. So Pando, he is 16 one hands. He's a 6-year-old by Violence, which is a really nice Medaglia d'Oro line, and I've had a few of them. I've always loved them. Although I have to say that this one has to be my hands down absolute favorite I've ever had. This has to be one of my favorite horses I've ever had, period, because he is just absolutely exquisite. I mean, he moves lovely. He is so beautiful, and he just has such a delightful way of going. He just has this very pleasant expression on his face. He's very rhythmic. Everything about him just sort of oozes this sort of calm, like secure disposition that he has about himself. It's like he knows that he's special. He's right. He is special, and he's not afraid to show it off. And I just love that. It's a lot of confidence he has about himself. So this is just our warm up. Of course, we started by walking over poles, and we trot around a little bit in each direction. On his first ride, we went to the left first, which is typically my MO because on average, the left tends to be easier for them than the right when they're right off the track. I actually don't even think it's necessarily just thoroughbreds right off the track. It seems like because we handle horses so much more from the left that the breed or the background is sort of irrelevant. Most horses, it seems, tend to prefer the left to the right. But anyway, that's just totally different aside. But today, because we started to the left and did so much work to the left last time, first, and he ended to the right, and he ended so well to the right, I wanted to switch it for this ride. So we started to the right, which is what you're seeing, and then we did the second half of our trot warm up to the left, and sure enough, I mean, I just got the most beautiful trot work out of him today to the left. He really came. I thought he warmed up really nicely to the right. There was absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a lovely thing to watch and exceptional to sit on. But when we switched and went to the left, I just got like one click more out of him. He was just even rounder, without being behind the vertical or anything like that. He's still right on vertical. The roundness just felt more through to the left today, which was great because I felt like I had that to the right the last time when we ended. And so because this is just his, second or third, however you want to count it, ride, and we're doing poles, of course, I still don't have complete control over the outside shoulder. So there's going to be in some places where you'll see him sort of lean out the outside shoulder. That's mostly going to happen when we're going by the short side with the gate that leads back to the friends and all the things. And he absolutely doesn't have any ill behavior about it, but just they all tend to want to lean out that outside shoulder going by the gate. And until you've really established, straightness and lateral work, that's what solves all of that. And on his second true ride post track, we certainly have not established all of those things yet. So you'll see a little bit of leaning out the outside shoulder in places. This here felt very delightful. And he's just so ridiculously steady in it. I mean, he just sits in it like, yeah, why wouldn't I? I mean, isn't this how every horse goes? Nobody tell him that it's not, because he is just magnificent. Okay, first poll. Solid effort. Slightly awkward, solid effort. That's all you can ask for. And I am a huge believer that even when a horse's first couple of times jumping, even first couple of months jumping, aren't very promising, that does not mean that they cannot learn and become fabulous jumpers in the future. Actually, one of my personal horses, Seven on the Rocks, he's actually retired now. It's a whole horrible story. But when I started him, the very first ride I did on him where we did poles like this, that was better. That was an improvement. I couldn't even get him to walk over a pole. I mean, I remember we did one ride where literally all I did was try and get him to walk and trot over one single white pole. And I think that I was successful on the second ride, the second time I tried to do that. And all we did was the one white pole. And it was pretty funny. And I was thinking, is this horse going to want to jump jumps? But sure enough, he turned out to be the most brave, honest horse ever. So it certainly does not mean that they will not come around. But Pando here, he's a natural. So the first two times we went over the Cavaletti, it was just a little bit awkward. I thought the second time was better than the first. Oh, you just saw some wildness there. That was Pando being wild. He just sort of stuck his head in the air for two strides and said, "Did you see that? I was amazing. Let me be wild to celebrate." It was very cute. So the first two times a little bit awkward, second time was better than the first. And then I thought to myself, well, hey, maybe I should actually just like sit up and ride and ask him to really do something. So I actually had a plan for after the Cavaletti, which amazing what that does when you have a plan for after whatever the thing is. And so we jumped the Cavaletti, landing and turning, riding with the plan, and sure enough, he jumped it so much better and landed on the left lead, which of course makes everything so much easier. And so here, the first time we went over it, he did this really nice big jump, and I landed with no plan because I was just like, wow, this horse is amazing. And then that was the conclusion of my plans. So then we landed on the left lead. We went down into the corner because I had no plan, lost the outside shoulder. It was disorganized. So we came back around that second time, still landed on the left lead, but at least I landed with a plan. So we made the shorter turn and it was much more organized. And then look at that. Third time's the charm. He was like, oh, it's going to be so much easier. If you're going to want me to do this shorter turn, then it would be so much easier if I just landed on the correct lead. So what a smart guy. It's amazing what happens when, the rider just actually remembers to keep riding after the jump. Land with a plan. Know where you're going. Look where you're going. Usually that's all it takes. Now he's like, okay, this is boring. And I also just want to say that I thought his flat work in between all of this was super impressive. He stayed just as lovely. And just his whole temperament about this. I mean, at no point to me does he look anxious or worried. He just stays just as cool as a cucumber for all of this as he does when he's not. And that was so very good. And then obviously, I mean, the canter is just incredible. That's a really nice little jump over that pile of poles. And so here, even he's not always landing on the correct lead, which I mean I wouldn't be expecting him to yet, even though I think he's making a solid effort in getting it about 50% of the time. But it's so much more organized, even when we're on the incorrect lead. As long as I land turning, knowing where I'm going, riding somewhere specifically, it's so organized. It's so easy for him to do a short turn on the counter canter. And so this was messy because I've lost the outside shoulder, so I'm just kicking up that right shoulder for that whole short side. But he was a good boy because one, he did it, even though it was so much easier to fall out to the right. And two, he landed on the correct lead, so that was very good. So then I thought we would run with that momentum and actually canter over a pole, which he did very well. Of course, when a horse canters like this, cantering jumps is going to be actually probably easier for him than trotting them. But that actually means that we need to make sure we really spend the time getting him to understand things in the trot. It's even more important that he figures it out in the trot first and don't skip those steps. That was very good. Of course, we added up. We got right to the base, which is no big deal. He's got to learn to jump from every distance. So it's probably like a 15-meter turn there. It's just so easy for him to do that on the counter canter. Oh, then I thought we'd try and really be fancy here. And sure enough, we were way off center of that. We were way off to the edge. So I almost lost the outside shoulder, but he gave the change, which was very lovely. Here I really rode this badly. I mean, this is the one thing I wish I could go back and do better. I just forced him to add up there. I don't know why I did that. That was just rider error. I stuffed the ad in. It was my choice, not him, which was terrible. I need to just let him find his balance and learn to jump from anywhere. So here I actually managed to ride a little bit more correctly. And sure enough, it worked out beautifully. Landed on the correct lead again. Really nice turn. What a lovely horse. So, of course, now we're done. But, he was just cantering so beautifully that I thought, well, actually, let me just take a second here to just work this right canter for a moment. So I put my butt back in the saddle and I just wanted to do one nice 20-meter circle, which of course he was happy to do. He felt like absolute butter at this point. And so there you have it. I really couldn't be happier with him. He continues to blow me away.